Hi, Tom from VPG Gaming here. Oftentimes when people make YouTube videos, they either cover a game that's currently popular or newly released, or they might choose something that's near and dear to their heart. Me, on the other hand, I'm a complete idiot. And the reason why I struggle to choose what game to play is because I'm surrounded by so much rubbish. I mean, just take a look at all of this crap. See, it's pretty hard to choose which game I want to play. There's a lot of games I absolutely adore, and then there's a lot of games where I just think, So it's quite hard to choose between them. Today's game is something I haven't played for a very long time, and there's a very good reason for that, which I'll get to at the very end. But it is actually going to be on Castlevania, or Castlevania 64. Something that is kind of a guilty pleasure, but at the same time, ooh, we're going to have some fun with this one. Let me show you why. For those of you unfamiliar with Castlevania, it's an action-adventure gothic horror video game series about vampire hunters created and developed by Konami. It has been released on various platforms, from early systems to modern consoles, as well as handheld devices such as mobile phones. The franchise has also expanded into other media, including comic books, an animated TV series, and several spin-off video games. This Castlevania for the 64 was the first 3D game in the Castlevania series. The player selects one of the game's protagonists to control: Kairi Fernandez, a young orphan gifted with magic powers, or Reinhard Schneider, the whip-wielding heir to the Belmont clan. Kairi and Reinhard set out on a quest to stop Count Dracula's impending return to power after a century of dormancy. The characters travel to and explore Dracula's grand estate in their mission to defeat the Count and a horde of his undead minions. So basically it's like any other Castlevania game. You go through each level, kill a load of monsters, whether you're using Reinhard's whip or whether you're using Kairi's magical orb. It has all the elements of the original platform games, but now includes puzzles, as well as a time mechanic that is quite interesting but also a complete pain to deal with. Graphics wise, this is great for the time. I've got to admit, I do find a certain charm to early N64 games, well, just N64 games in general. The characters and enemies all look good, and they're well rendered actually in the game. The stages are pretty big as well and well designed. Well, to an extent they're well designed, not the actual layout of them, just the look of them I should say. It goes from you on the outskirts of Dracula's castle all the way up until you reach the final tower. You do get to see some different levels when you play as each of the characters, though they mostly share the same levels. And to go along with the graphics, the sound is brilliant. The actual soundtrack itself is probably one of the best ones on the N64 outside of your usual nominations like Zelda. The atmosphere that it sets up in some of the areas is genuinely quite scary. And that's pretty much where the praise ends. See, after that, where the gameplay kicks in, is where this game falls short. I don't know if you've ever played a game in 3D, such as Mario 64, Jack or Daxter, or anything that's come out in the last 20 odd years, but moving your character, trying to see where you're jumping, and just generally attacking things, really needs to work, otherwise it's quite a slog. This has got nothing to do with using the N64 controller. This thing's pretty good to be honest, but I don't think the developers really knew what they were doing at the time, and to be fair, it was their first 3D game. But dear god, there are some things that really need to be sorted out. Maybe it will get sorted out in a sequel. Who knows? You have the staples of 3D platforming, running, jumping, and attacking. The problem is when you try and do any of those when you're not standing still. See, when you're stood still and the lock-on works, it's not really too much of an issue, although the enemies do seem to have massive invincibility frames compared to yours. No, the main problem seems to come from either running and jumping, or trying to actually just grab hold of ledges. I'm pretty sure I've died more times in this game just from falling than I have to anything in the game itself. To be fair, you do have a few ways of controlling the camera, and control is using the term loosely. You can flick between 3 different modes, and to be honest, the only one that ever seems to work is the boss mode, which is something you can't even activate yourself. Because the camera struggles to get behind you, trying to line up for that perfect jump just to make sure you don't die for the 50th time becomes an utter chore. And even when you do get the camera perfectly lined up, making sure the character grabs hold of the ledge, or just, maybe does what is intended, really doesn't happen that often. Right, just grab hold of the ledge, please, just grab hold. Why is it you can grab one ledge but you can't grab the next ledge? Oh, finally, right, just need to time this properly and... Right, this is the only thing that needs to be done. And I'm dead again, and again. Grab hold of the right then, time to make this harder again. I commend speedrunners for being able to play this game as well as they do. And if there's one thing that lets this game down the most, more than the camera and more than the controls, it's the fetch quest you have to do in the middle of the game, specifically trying to get the magical nitro. You have to do this twice. Now, you'd think this would be easy. You're not allowed to jump, you can't be touched. Piece of cake, you just take it slow. No, you can't do that. It's just doesn't work. Out of my whole playthrough, this is the one thing that took me the most amount of time, and I knew about it beforehand as well. Like I say, you think you can take it slow, so walk up to the enemies, throw a load of items, nope, get killed by long reach. Walk up to them again, try and stay a little bit closer, oh no, it'll be okay, nope, get killed by something else. Accidentally not pay attention while you're walking towards the room, slide off something, instantly explode. Finally make it further down into another room, have to walk across a stupid little planked bridge, not go fast enough and fall down on the floor and explode. Finally, after multiple attempts, make it all the way across, only to die getting crushed by cogs. And finally make it outside the door where you need to place the nitro, only to be killed by a skeleton on a motorcycle. At least the only saving grace with this is that the explosion is so big you do end up going flying. Thankfully the other item is just down the hallway, and it doesn't explode when you do anything, so you don't have to worry too much about holding on to it. It's such a shame that this is in the game. I can deal with puzzles and stuff, that's perfectly fine, but up until this point I was generally having a good time. This is where the annoyance started kicking in though. After that the platforming really kicked in. There's not that many bad enemies you have to deal with, the vampires are probably the worst. And having to wait by certain doors or enter certain areas at certain times becomes a chore as well. Thankfully you do have items that allow for this, but this also does impact on the endings. And there's 2 endings to this game, which I'll never see. Well, I saw one of them, I'm definitely never seeing the other. So overall, it's not a bad game for an early 3D platformer, especially by a team that have never made one before. I think if it didn't have the Castlevania name on it, on the other hand, it would get slated way more than it does. But for me, it's like a guilty pleasure, like I said. It's one of those ones where I enjoy parts of it, especially the music, but on the other hand, the gameplay in certain areas just needs to die in a fiery pit of hell. Well, that was Castlevania, or Castlevania 64. I might one day cover the sequel, prequel, Legacy of Darkness. You'd think I would have learnt my lesson from buying games that are crap, but to be honest, the artwork on this is absolutely amazing, and that's the main reason why I bought it. So if you want to see me lose more of my soul and patience, then like, comment and subscribe, and tell me down below whether you want to see me play Legacy of Darkness. Please don't make me play that game. I've been Tom from Picture Pros Gaming, and thank you for watching.